in the VMware Explore Hub Theater, please welcome Senior Developer Advocate at Docker, Shai Ruparel.
Hi everyone, how are y'all doing? Awesome, I love to hear it. I'm so excited to be here at VMware Explore today. This is my second talk that I'm giving. I gave a talk yesterday about some fun stuff, and I'm excited to be here to share with y'all all of the new stuff that we've been putting out with Docker in the last year. So first up, I want to just highlight that we keep all of our release notes actually on the Docker documentation, which we'll have up on the screen in just a second. So if you feel like maybe I missed something or you don't want to come listen to me once a year, you can keep an eye on the Docker docs, and we keep everything up to date over there. So I got two things I want to really highlight today. First off is that Docker Desktop is now fully supported on Linux. So if you're a Linux user, we have heard you. We've heard that you've been asking for this for basically the entire time that we've had Docker Desktop, and I'm really excited to say that it's there. It's been out for a little bit, so hopefully you've been using it, or hopefully you have a chance to check it out to make sure to do that. And then the other thing I really want to talk about is Docker extensions. So Docker extensions are brand new to Docker Desktop. You might be wondering, how do I get this feature? And that, if you're asking me that question, I know that you are not up to date. All you got to do to get Docker extensions is update your instance of Docker Desktop. And Docker extensions are really cool. They let you add third-party functionality right here into Docker. So if you have a bunch of process stuff that you do with your containers, or any sort of automation that you do, instead of having to jump out of desktop or jump into a terminal or open a website, you're able to do a lot of that functionality straight here from inside our tool. So all you have to do to get started is pull up the marketplace. So that's just this triple dot and marketplace, and you can see we've got a whole bunch of extensions in here. Things from image scanning with Sneak and JFrog and Slim.ai to solutions to see your disk usage and get a better sense of what's going on your machine. I'm a big fan of the Logs Explorer as well. And we just added a new extension ourselves yesterday where it makes it so you can easier manage your volumes, to back them up, share them, throw them on a floppy disk, send them to a friend, and have that friend import that volume straight into your machine. And as you can see, all it takes to do an install is that one-click install. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of these extensions. In addition to the marketplace, you can also sideload extensions as well. In our Docker settings, you can see that we have the ability to lock it down, so you can only distribute extensions through the marketplace, but you can also turn that feature off, which lets you bring some external stuff in. And I am excited to say that, yes, Docker Desktop does run Doom. It's not on our marketplace, but you can make Docker Desktop run Doom if that's something that you want to do. And we also have Flappy Bird in here as well. This is one of those ones that's been sideloaded. So if you can program it, you can put it into Docker Desktop. So let's take a look at some practical extensions really quickly. I'm a big fan of the disk usage extension. I tend to find that my images and my containers and my build cache can get out of control from time to time. And so this is a really great extension that we built internally to make it easy to manage that. You can see how much space I can grab. I can delete my unused volumes. I can delete my stopped stuff. And it's a feature that people have been asking for a long time, better kind of disk usage management. And so we've gone ahead and used extensions as the opportunity to put that together. We've also gone ahead and made our logs much more fun and easy to see. So we can see, I was running a kube cluster with the Tanzu extension yesterday. The Tanzu extension is really great. It gives me a one-click button to start a Kubernetes cluster, and that way I don't have to manage that myself as well. So I think maybe it would be fun if we take a look at the process of putting one of these extensions together, check out the extensions SDK, and get something up into Docker Desktop. And I'm going to call out our GitHub as the main resource for getting started with Docker extensions. We have a whole extension SDK that you can check out, and we've got a bunch of really great samples in there. And I think it'd be fun to maybe run through some of these samples and showcase just how easy it is to put one of these together. So let me pull up my terminal and let me clear it. And Great. Cool. Hopefully that is big enough to read. Let me make it a little bigger just in case. So we've got a couple extensions in here, and I'm going to get started with the minimal front-end extension. I feel like hello world is always the first thing you have to do whenever you do something automated. So we're going to get hello world inside Docker Desktop really quickly. So I can head into this minimal front-end extension, and we can see that it's a pretty simple file structure. We've got the traditional Docker file. We've got some metadata, and that metadata is just going to provide information that we're going to use to display the extension inside Docker Desktop. We have a UI directory that contains one item, and that's just a, cat UI. That's one item that's just going to be a traditional, HTML file. Nothing super interesting here. It just says hello VMware. And then we have the standard Docker file as well, which in this instance, since we're just displaying one web page, we're doing it from scratch. We don't need to bring any images along, so we can use an empty one. And you can see here that we're labeling the metadata inside of this as well. We're copying the folder. And that's really all we need to get content into Docker Desktop. So let's go ahead and put this together. All it takes is a Docker build -t. So we're going to name it. I'm going to call it min front end. I'm going to set a period. And so that's going to have built my extension. And then we've got this new Docker extension command on the CLI. So we can start with Docker extension ls. And we can see that I have a bunch of stuff installed already. So let's go ahead and add that minimal front extension. So we can do a Docker extension install. And we can grab this min front extension that I just built. And it's going to ask for my permission. It's going to go ahead and add that to Docker. And when we head back to Docker Desktop, with any luck, yep, we've got this new extension, this new min front, and it says hello VMware. That's pretty simple. That's pretty basic. This is just a HTML page. It doesn't do anything. But if you're maybe a group that has internal documentation, maybe you use a static site to generate internal libraries, I think this could be a good tool or a good way to add that documentation straight into Docker Desktop. I have a lot of scripts that I keep up on my GitHub of things that I find useful, but I never really remember. I use FFmpeg fairly frequently to convert video files, and I am always forgetting what the codecs are and what the formatting is, and so I keep that stored in gists up on GitHub, and this could be a cool place to put it as well if you have similar scripts that you're running to manage your environments or get your things running. Make it really easy for people to find that documentation from a tool that they're already using every day. So that's our minimal front end. Let's go do something a little more fun, and let's go ahead and take a look at our React app. So we're expecting most people will be putting together extensions using React. Our SDK is built around React, and we have a bunch of things in there to interface with Docker Desktop. So you can do dialogues, you can do opening pages. You can even get lists of containers, list of images, all sorts of information that's running inside Docker you're able to get. So let's go ahead and put together this React app, this React extension. And this time, instead of using the Docker build process, I'm just going to use the make file that we have in all of our samples to do a make install extension, which is going to go ahead and build this for me. And then ask me to install. It's going to take a little bit, so maybe we can use this opportunity to go ahead and actually look at the source code of that extension. So let me go ahead and pull up Visual Studio Code, and we can take a look at it while it generates. There we go. So this extension is using our Material UI framework. So we're using Material UI for theming here. To try and help you make it so all the things that you build feel like they belong inside Docker. And we're using this create Docker desktop client, which again, over in the documentation, you can check out all of the things that does and all of the endpoints that you get with that DD client. In this example, we're just going to be making a button. And when you click that button, it's going to create a toast, so it'll give us a pop-up. And I've also gone ahead and added, an opening an external page to this example. And it looks like I didn't change it back from when I was working on it yesterday on stage. So we're also going to have the start of a Docker cheat sheet, which I was putting together as an example for yesterday's audience. So let's see how that build is doing. It looks like we got an error. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm not going to spend the time trying to fix it. So let's go ahead and take a look at a different extension then. Another extension that we built in React. Something I've been working on my personal time recently is this Dear Moby extension. So I have a YouTube show that I run at Docker called Dear Moby. It's a kind of a Dear Abby style advice column. You send in your technical questions. I hop on camera with Kat, our social media manager, and we try to figure them out and answer them for you. So we've been getting a lot of really great questions. We've been having a lot of fun with that show. And I thought it might be fun to go ahead and put that into Docker Desktop as well. So I've put together a little extension that does the same thing. So it reaches out to the YouTube API, grabs all of the episodes of our YouTube show, adds them, and then I've gone ahead into the Material UI design library, and I discovered that they have a modal example. And so I went ahead and I pulled that, and we've already got the Docker version of that inside of Docker Desktop, so it'll feel like it belongs. And I've made it so I can just go ahead and click, it gets a pop-up, and then I get my YouTube video. I'm not going to make you all watch it, but I do like doing this show. It's a lot of fun. And again, we've got some buttons, we've got some things that'll open up. And this is using useEffect and useState to go ahead and hit the YouTube API. So if you know how to use things inside React, you know how to build things for Docker Desktop. So we want to make it so the process of putting things together inside Docker Desktop is as seamless and easy as possible. It's using the frameworks and the tools that you already know and are already familiar with and are already fairly mature, so you don't have to learn something new. So we can see here in my code, I'm reaching out to that YouTube API. I'm using that useEffect statement. I'm just using a standard fetch, so nothing out of the ordinary, nothing new. And then I am returning my code and just doing a map statement through that playlist and going ahead and displaying any items that exist inside that map statement, embedding the videos, and I'm using all of those Material UI actions that we have to take advantage of as well. And then I've got some functions to handle opening and closing. The code for this is all up on GitHub. And hopefully you can see all sorts of potential with this, whether it's things that you're doing in your workflow, things that you're building for your team. Maybe there's that one feature you've wanted to put together for the Docker community. You're able to do that, and we are looking to see what folks build and what people do with Docker extensions as well. I'm really excited for all of the new stuff that we get added to our Docker marketplace every day. Looks like the cluster is still going as well, so I'm going to leave that alone as well. And maybe we can take a look back at what that error was and figure out what was going on there. So let me bump up that font again. Here we go, and let's do a make install extension. And I'm going to hold on to it and see, maybe it was me jumping out of the terminal that made it upset. Oh, something cool too is using that Material UI theme. We also make it really easy to manage dark and light mode. So I'm a dark mode user, and I can go ahead and just disable that really quickly. And you can see that everything kind of just comes along and fits. Since we're using that Material UI theme, it makes making the thing that you build feel really natural, feel like it's a part of desktop, and help people feel comfortable inside it. Another new feature that I can maybe point out for folks running on OS X, I think this might be a network error. We might just be demanding too much data from conference Wi-Fi. Another cool new feature that we've just added as well a few months ago to our experimental section is we've enabled the new accelerated file sharing for OS X. So if you're using OS X 12.2 or later and you want to see a significant performance increase, I'd recommend turning on this feature. It's still experimental, so things might go wrong, but we're working on making this better, and it's a really great way to improve your performance if you're using a MacBook and get past some of the limitations of the Mac kernel and how it handles file sharing as well. So if you're looking for a performance update, that's a really cool new feature as well that I'm really excited about and would really encourage you all to check out. And again, all it takes to get all of this new stuff is just updating your instance of Docker Desktop too. So maybe we can take a look at some more extensions while I'm here. The Postgres one is fun. We can just go ahead and add Postgres straight into Docker Desktop. So if you're doing database management, If you're setting up those local volumes with Postgres containers, you can go ahead and manage them straight from this tool. No need to jump into something different. We've got image scanning as well, so maybe we can go ahead and install the Sneak extension and scan some of my extensions too to take a look and see what happens, see all the vulnerabilities that I have forgotten to deal with, and let's see how those installs are going. Still going? Let's click into the details and see if we can get some logs here. Yeah, so it's pulling it from the cloud. Looks like we had a fail. I'm guessing again that these are network errors due to conference Wi-Fi. But yeah, you can kind of see the whole list, and like I said, we're constantly adding to these. And then we have a bunch of community-managed extensions that are managed by one of my coworkers, kind of like our awesome Compose repository. And this includes a bunch of stuff that is maybe still being in development, still being worked on as well. If you're looking for inspirations or you're looking for just source code of how things are built as well. So let's see if this loads. There we go. So this is definitely a great repository to check out as well. And while that loads, I can pull up I can wait for this to load. And again, that repository for GitHub is github.com/docker/extensions SDK. And if you do need help with any of those things, if you have questions, if you use it and you think it's missing some things, do feel free to reach out to us via our community Slack. We are having our community all hands tomorrow as well online, which will be a great chance to check out what's new in Docker as well. And that'll be a really fun to get another kind of hands-on how to build things, kind of demo and see what other folks are putting together too. So here we go. We've got our list of Docker extensions as well. And so we can see we've got a bunch of utilities. We've got a bunch of things for container management, networking, databases, security, logging, gaming. So if you want that Flappy Dock extension, you can go ahead and grab it from here. All sorts of infrastructure stuff. And it does give you a little walkthrough on how to get those extensions, how to build them locally, and how to install them. And then how to remove them. I guess I can also show you how to remove extensions too. So you can do that straight from the UI inside Docker Desktop, or if you want, you can do a Docker extension RM to pull them out. So let's go ahead and do a Docker extension RM on min front. And min front end. Spelling is hard. So there we go. We've pulled it. That's all it took to delete. And we can also turn on development mode as well. So if we want to go ahead and see console output for our extensions, we can do that too fairly easily. So we have a Docker extension dev, and I can just pull up the help commands, and we can see that we've got this debug option. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to enable it for my Dear Moby extension. And now when I head over to Docker Desktop and I open that extension, we're going to get a pop-up from Chrome, and you can see that it's giving us full access to the source code, so I can go ahead and check whatever I need to. It's giving us full access to the console. I'm guessing we're having struggles with the network because it looks like the videos aren't loading, but let me go ahead and reload it and see. It should be going. There we go. So it's made all those network calls. We can go ahead and look at them and inspect them. And you can see that I have a console logging our output, so we can go ahead and just inspect that object and find that metadata that we need to go ahead and build this out. And so that makes that development process much, much easier. You can also go ahead and turn on hot reloading too. So we can do an npm start in this directory, get the React app running locally, and then all we need to do to go ahead and do a all we need to do to get this running is a Docker extension dev UI source, and then point it to our local host 3000, and that'll go ahead and make it so we can do local debugging as well. It looks like I am running out of time, though. Like I said, do head over to the Docker documentation for all of these features and to keep an eye on what's coming. We do post updates all the time. Looks like we posted one just a few weeks ago, divided by system. And we also divide it down to features as well. So there's a separate changelog for Compose. And then we do keep our roadmap up on GitHub as well. So if you're curious on what's coming next, you can keep an eye on it from there. That's it for me, though. I'm Shai. I'm Shai Ruparel on Twitter if you're looking to get a hold of me. And if you have any questions or need any help, please do reach out to us on the Docker community Slack. But that's it for me, and I will talk to y'all in a bit.
Well, hello there.
How's it
Thanks for
going?
the talk.
Hello.
That was nice. It's always good to dive into that. Well, I wanted to speak about a broader topic, and that is, I mean, correct me where I'm wrong. My memory's always terrible. But
Sure, mine too.
Yeah, y'all introduced the extension thing a little under a year ago, or how long?
DockerCon, so it's been like 3-4 months. So it's fairly new.
That's right. See,
my memory is
that is technically under a year.
Yeah,
but
under a year.
Poorly phrased.
And it's also less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months. Yeah,
We can do math.
My memory might be bad here. So I joined Docker in January.
All right.
And DockerCon was one of our first big projects, and that's where we unveiled all of these new features. And so it's, the experience of onboarding to a new organization plus DockerCon is, I imagine you all organize VMware Explore, you know what it's like.
Right.
Your memory just kind of starts to get screwy around.
Yeah, it turns like the sludge at the bottom of the conference coffee.
Yeah, I don't envy what you're going to be like on Saturday.
That's right. Well, so to that end, I mean, it has only been a short amount of time, but and you touched on this a tiny bit, but what is the ecosystem of developing around extensions? How do people get involved with that, and how I mean, the intention is clear, but how's that build out going?
Yeah, so we're working with a lot of our close partners right now that we've been working with for a long time. So we have long-standing relationships with organizations like JFrog or Sneak or Slim.ai, and those are the folks we reached out to before extensions was public to get extensions built. Now that it's public, it's still in beta, but it's generally available to anyone. And so at this point, we're kind of trying to educate folks about the feature, help come up with inspirational use cases. I'm really excited to see the private extensions that people build. Things like private documentation that is really useful for them and their development teams, especially if you're a new dev and you're out of school and you've never heard of Docker, having resources that are specific to your organization and your engineering team right there, I think can be really, really powerful. And that's never going to get shared with us, but I am excited to see what people do with it and how they use it to empower their dev teams, and then just generally what the community is doing. And in terms of our rollout, it's again, it's how do we educate people about the feature, how do we support them and enable them as they build things, and what doesn't work. It's still in beta, so what's broken, so we can go ahead and fix it and make it better.
Yeah.
Well, what doesn't work?
I mean, all of the bugs that I have found, I have told our engineering team about, so I am not current on the latest bugs.
You've done your advocate duty.
Yeah. They usually fix them when I come yelling at them as well. So I can talk to them directly. I don't have to go through our support channels for them.
Right, of course. And so, I mean, you mentioned one scenario that I think, I mean, the private documentation that kind of customize it to your organization.
Yeah.
That's always I mean, for the types of organizations I talk with, that tends to be kind of almost hidden work.
Oh yeah.
I was
But it's still really important.
Yeah. I was talking with someone this morning, and I was trying to explain kind of what you might do with something like that, or with Backstage, where it's just you don't really have the public internet to go search for.
You've got the Notion or the Jira, and and maybe you're on a bunch of different services. Maybe you've got an Airbase somewhere, and then it's what does that engineer from 5-6 years ago remember about?
Sure, if they're still
they're
around.
Even there.
Yeah, whether it's been under a year or 3 months.
Yeah, I think it's so much harder with this remote world that we live in too, because I can't just get up and go tap someone on the shoulder and be like, hey, Git is telling me you did this. What the heck is this thing that you've done 3 months ago? I don't understand. And so I feel like it's nice to have that kind of culture in an organization and a development group to try and make things more accessible, make things easier. I really empathize with the junior developer experience. I did a lot of work with students in my first developer advocacy job, so getting started is always something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. Learning always seems nice in the abstract, but then oftentimes
you have to do it.
Fun.
Yeah. You either have to do it or you have to teach it.
That's exactly what I tell people. Is I'm always a terrible student.
Yeah.
You have to remember to learn. Well, I think you're making me think of another conversation I've been having a lot today and with other people, and that is kind of figuring out who is in charge of developer tool stuff. In charge is a loaded phrase, but like is ending up using it. And y'all are in an interesting scenario with Docker at the moment where tell me what you think, but it doesn't necessarily fit. Like whoever would manage it and kind of own it as far as managing the kind of product, if you will, the install you have. Like who's like in charge of that in organizations?
I mean, I think it's really dependent on scale. If you're a tiny startup, it's probably your CTO or your co-founder of engineering or whatever.
Right.
Managing it. And
sort of like a pure application developer.
Yeah. And as you grow, at some point you're probably going to get IT involved and do like your SSO rollout and have your deployment of like these are the approved applications that you're allowed to install to get that SOC 2 compliance.
The adult level friction.
Yeah, and there's a whole range and spectrum within those two paradigms. Those are both the extremes there. So I think it really depends, and it's more of a cultural thing of what reduces developer friction. I'm always going to advocate for developers first. I'm going to do the Steve Ballmer thing and keep developers at the forefront of my mind. And
You want to do that?
Yeah, maybe next time.
Okay. That'd be
You've
fun.
got to prepare.
Yeah.
We could all dance too.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think as long as you're how do we keep developers empowered and enabled and informed? That's going to dictate those decisions.
Right.
So who in particular are you trying to reach? I mean, developers are, are you talking to just, who are the developers that you're really wanting to talk to?
So I have the really nice kind of job of being a developer advocate in that I only care about developers. And so I get to just go out there and build cool stuff.
It doesn't matter who.
As long as the developer is excited by the stuff that we build, or the stuff that I get, I'm happy and my boss is happy.
So who are you trying to reach? Is it the platform engineer? Who are you reaching? Like, and what?
Yeah.
Are you reaching platform engineers? You like just
Like
front-end developers?
Back-end developers, yeah. I do a lot of work with back-end developers. I talk to back-end developers a lot. But I think anywhere that, Docker is useful, I want to be able to help those people take advantage and get faster development cycles.
So mostly back-end developers?
Yeah, I'd say a mix. So. You're really trying to nail me down on this question. All the front-end developers are going to come stop talking to me now.
He's a pro.
They're going to be like, what about me? No, I mean, but...
You're going to make them mad.
Well, they can only interpret what I say or what you say.
And then kind of connected to something you were going over as far as identifying the problems or helping out is another way of putting it. I think one way to think about that is like all throughout the work a developer does, there is, to borrow an SRE term, there's a lot of toil they have to do.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you do that isn't building application code, building the stuff that you want to build.
Yeah, and I imagine you've come across discovering kind of like ignored toil, like that people don't come across. And I feel like there's an interesting thing where developers know about it, but you kind of have to ask them. And so like if you were to like, in your mind, you have like a standard list of like, well, before we start, here's the toil you should be eliminating. Like what are the things that you could see as developers needing help with?
I'm a big fan of polish quarters, and I'm never going to be put in charge of a business because I like polish so much. I feel like the reality of like business is you've got to be building new things to excite your users, excite your customers, and spending a quarter to just exclusively come out and say, we didn't launch anything new, but we made everything faster is sometimes a difficult sell. And so you end up getting all of that organizational cruft, that builds that toil. We haven't had the cycle to spend 2 weeks to make this build process faster.
Right. We had to cut corners.
We had to cut corners, and I don't really have a solution to that beyond like, eventually something's going to break and then it gets rewritten and it gets fixed. I feel like that's just been my experience working professionally. Unlike, when I was doing it for fun, I would throw things out and rewrite things from scratch all the time.
Well, this is the eternal, not eternal, but it's a, as you point out, a very frequent management issue with software development is figuring out how to weigh to use the phrase, the tech debt you're pulling on versus like shipping something. And
I think a lot of that toil comes from tech debt.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And that's why I try to, at least when I think about it, distinguish between toil, which is like the activities, and tech debt, which is like that software. I don't know. Like we've got some issues there. And
I think good SaaS products and good developer tools should be doing as much as they can to take on the burden of a lot of that toil or abstract that burden away from those developers. Like there's a lot of stuff that I just hate doing, and ideally if my tooling can do a lot of that for me, then, or make that toil easier for me, then I'm a happy customer and I'm willing to, try a new service, try a new API out if it makes my life easier.
And polish quarters. I was thinking you were going to talk about change there, like coins for a little bit. But
Well,
I like that metaphor. That's good.
Well, what are people asking for? Like, what are some of the things that you're getting requests for with your extension?
Yeah, extension
community?
is actually a really nice way for us to help manage those requests, because a lot of requests that we get are very org specific, right? Like if we build this thing, and I'm sure any developer tooling company probably has the same problem, where it's like we would like this thing, can you build it for us? And we do the evaluation of like how much of our developer audience is this going to impact, and how do we make the most positive impact in general? And that's something that we have to manage, and I'm hoping extensions makes it easier for folks to take a look and be like, you know what, this is a really important thing. I understand why Docker isn't going to build it, but they've given us the tools to build it ourselves.
So what are the tools that you have launched to build the extensions? What are some of the tools that you're seeing a need for?
Yeah, I think right now we're seeing a lot of existing tools that have existed outside of the Docker sphere, like the Docker Inc. sphere of influence, starting to make their way into the Docker product. So I keep hyping on Sneak. Sneak is a great image scanning platform. We've got a few of them out there where they take a look at your container and they look for vulnerabilities. And now instead of having to go to an external website, you're able to take a look straight in from Docker Desktop. You're able to run that scan straight in from Docker Desktop. We've also added remote access management too. So if you don't want to use Docker Hub, you want to use an external registry, you can do that as well, which is a feature that's been asked for a while too, as well, making it so you can start customizing that experience to hit your needs, whether it's for compliance reasons, maybe you need to have your registry hosted locally on-prem, or you just want a feature to make your own life easier.
Do you see a lot of use for private registries? Is Harbor and one that's requested a lot, or?
I haven't heard of that one a lot, but
it's VMware's container registry.
Yeah. I imagine we do have a decent number of customers that are probably taking advantage of that registry as an alternative.
So since you're a developer advocate, so I have two more questions. The second will be about luggage, which I think is always important.
You're going to ask me the backpack question?
Yeah, they're very, very important. Or more of just the evolution of thinking in the area. We'll go a little more inside the suitcase, so to speak. But the first one is like, you encounter this here. There's the ongoing notion that developers don't want the complexity of like Kubernetes and down the stack, right? And I almost feel like there's three perspectives here. One, there's the one that I just said is like, oh, they don't want it. They want to move pixels on the screen instead, right? And then, of course, there is the vendor and the cloud service perspective, which is like, why don't you let us help you solve that?
Yeah.
But then, like, I remember back when I was like in my 20s as a developer, like I feel like I did want to mess with that stuff, right? Like all of my peers back then, we all built our own platforms, and often they were all terrible, right? And so like, in talking with developers, like what do you think? The truth is the wrong thing, but like, what is that perspective of like how much do developers really quote unquote want to mess with infrastructure? How do they think about that?
I think part of that speaks to the evolution you have in your career. So start of your career, you're learning to code, and the response is, I want to build this. And then you go out there, you get your first job, and it's, I can build this. And then you eventually get to that senior point where it's like, I could build this, but should I? And then that final step is, I could build this, but I could pay someone to do that for me. And I think that's kind of the traditional software journey. You said in your 20s, you built it yourself and it was terrible. And that sounds like I think everyone's, 20s as a professional engineer is
Or life in general.
yeah, in life in general, it's you only have so much time, and at a certain point, you learn that other people are willing to spend the time, and you can pay $10 a month to have that feature working rather than doing it yourself and go focus on your core thing that makes whatever you're building exciting to you or special to you.
Right.
It's always like a game of trade-offs, pros and cons, and you are, I think, losing some learning when you get to the point where it's like, okay, instead of me learning Kubernetes and how it really works at a deep level, I'm going to go trust this third-party vendor to do it for me. There's that loss of understanding, but then a gain in confidence that it's going to keep running.
Yeah.
You've got someone to call when or if it breaks, probably when, since everything breaks.
Yeah, and then you're kind of touching lightly on it. There's also that sense of losing control
Yeah.
of something
Yeah.
that you depend on, right? I mean, it's kind of goes back to the toil thing of like, if I haven't built this thing and control it,
Yeah.
I am at the whim of someone else's toil.
Totally.
And
And that needs to go into your due diligence when you think about risk. In the same way as you pick your cloud provider and you compare vendors, it's like, what is our risk tolerance and our risk profile? And
Yeah.
if you're a HIPAA compliant company doing medical stuff, your risk tolerance is going to be different than if you're making, I don't know,
the old,
Twitter for dogs. or
yeah, the old
whatever.
hats on cats thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's going to be a different conversation you have, and there's going to be a lot of thinking rather than coding.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So just to finish things up, I'm curious about you, and why did you decide to be a developer advocate?
Yeah, so I don't want to name names, but my final software engineering job helped me realize that I hated being a professional software engineer. I didn't like fixing bugs. I didn't like being told to implement features. I just didn't enjoy that process. What I kind of took my joy from was I like building stuff. At the end of the day, I think of myself more as a hacker. So I'm always putting together dumb IoT projects or building things. Right now I'm working on building a lamp out of keyboard switches that has a bunch
lamp?
A lamp, yeah.
Okay, sure.
I found some really cool giant keyboard switches on AliExpress, and
Yeah?
I picked up a ESP32, which is like a wireless microcontroller, and I'm just kind of futzing around and building something fun. And that's kind of where I get my joy from, is just making things. And I think developer advocacy is a really nice fit for me because at the end of the day, I do get constraints. The constraint is build it using this, but then the world's my oyster. I can build whatever I want.
Yeah.
If I can figure out how to use Docker on my personal projects, I get to work on my personal projects on work time, and then I get to go share them with people, which is so I really enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, as you're kind of saying, right? Like, building a series of things can be a lot more, depending on your type, can be a lot more enjoyable than maintaining one thing.
Yeah, I like putting
ongoing.
things down and then never thinking about them again.
Yeah. So then, as previewed, indeed,
Luggage question.
like carry-on or backpack. Where do you fall on this?
Full carry-on. Never
Yeah?
check anything.
Okay. Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, there's that. But like, you're not like everything in one backpack sort of person.
No, so I have a backpack. Well, it depends on the trip. So
Yeah?
like a week will usually be a backpack.
So give me the
suitcase.
template. When do you choose? I'm only taking the backpack that's like the 40-liter guy versus
3
like
days
the-
or less.
3 days or less.
Yeah.
And
The
then you're
backpack only.
Backpack only. Yeah.
okay. And then otherwise, if you're 3 or more days,
Backpack and a travel suitcase.
and do you use the same backpack with the rolling bag?
Yes, the backpack actually contains every cable I might ever need.
Yeah.
And it just sits packed with all that redundant
All the
stuff.
time.
Yes.
And so whenever I need to go, I just slide my laptop
Now,
into it.
do you have 2 backpacks or just one?
I have a New York backpack that I use for wandering around the city.
Okay.
And then I have a work backpack that I
Okay.
use for work travel.
Okay,
Okay.
the commuter and the traveler.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how about like while we're on this inane but very useful
Sure,
topic
yeah.
for our lives.
Very relevant.
Do you like bring your own shampoo and conditioner, or do you use the hotel shampoo?
I use the hotel. It's good
Yeah?
enough. Do bring your deodorant.
That's not provided.
During the lockdown, I have redundant toiletries in my like travel
Yes.
toiletry bag, and I slowly started poaching my toiletries
Oh, that's
as,
no good.
Oh, that's
as the
dangerous.
lockdown went on, and so
That's
I
dangerous.
I went on my first trip post lockdown
Okay.
professionally, and I opened the toiletry bag in the morning, and I'm like, I have no deodorant, so I had to run to the CVS before the conference.
Yes.
Buy some deodorant, and thankfully not enforce my smelliness on those poor attendees. So.
Right. That's the wrong kind of advocating.
Yeah.
That you're doing. Yeah, I mean, the problem, maybe you've discovered this. The other thing I've discovered is that if you bring your bag with you on family vacations, inevitably,
Yeah.
someone goes and raids your bag.
Yeah,
And
no.
Wow.
there's no toothpaste or something like that.
Yeah, so when I do family stuff, my parents generally bring full-size versions of those things.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
they're
yeah.
people who check stuff.
Yeah.
So usually it's the opposite way around on that.
Oh, you
one.
There's,
want
there's
theirs.
plenty.
Oh,
I steal theirs.
good.
Or,
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's still there as well. That's a parent-child relationship right there.
Okay, I think Alex and I travel a tremendous
Yeah.
amount, so that's good because I think what we've done here, I agree. We've
Yeah.
calibrated on the right
Yeah, yeah.
decisions that we've made. I mean,
It's like, how do you make it as low stress and low effort?
yeah,
for you?
yeah, and I think especially the keeping a full duplication of
Yeah.
everything. That is that's like you figured that out 6 or 12 months.
I just don't want to think about it. I just
Yeah.
don't want to have to worry. Did I forget my charger at home?
Yeah.
I reduce that stress in my life.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, great. Well, that was a really fun overview that you gave us there, and a fun discussion.
Yeah,
from,
my pleasure. Thanks
From
for
toil to
chatting.
luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks a lot.
Well, we'll see everyone next time.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.